Li Jiwon pressed his face against the viewport as his small transport ship approached the massive Vril outpost. The station hung in space like a gleaming blue jewel, attached to a dark asteroid that seemed to swallow all light around it. Jiwon's fingers tapped nervously on his knee as he replayed the unusual assignment in his mind. 3 days ago, he had been fixing communication arrays on Earth's orbital platform when his supervisor, Director Park, had called him into her office. Her usually calm face had looked worried. "Jiwon, I have a strange request here," she had said, sliding a tablet across her desk. "The Vril have asked specifically for a human technician. For you, actually." Jiwon had stared at the tablet in disbelief. The Vril were known throughout the galaxy for 3 things: their 6-limbed bodies, their advanced technology, and their complete disdain for humans. They considered humans barely more evolved than the primitive species on their home planet. "There must be some mistake," Jiwon had said. Director Park shook her head. "No mistake. They've had system failures for the past month. Their engineers can't solve it. The Galactic Alliance pushed them to accept outside help. Now, as the docking clamp secured his ship to the station, Jiwon checked his equipment one last time. He had spent the 3-day journey studying the outpost schematics, and something felt wrong. The power routing showed strange loops and redundancies that made no sense for a standard monitoring station. The airlock hissed open. Jiwon took a deep breath of the slightly sweet-smelling air that the Vril preferred and stepped through. "Human technician Li Jiwon," a cold voice said. "You have arrived 4.3 minutes later than scheduled." Station Director Nari stood before him, her blue skin shimmering under the station lights. She towered over him at nearly 7 feet tall. Her primary arms were crossed over her chest, while her secondary arms held a data tablet. Her third set of limbs, the manipulation appendages, twitched with what Jiwon recognized as irritation. "Apologize, Director," Jiwon said with a small bow. "There was unexpected solar activity that required a course adjustment." "Excuses," Nari said. Her large pupilless eyes blinked slowly. "We expect little from your primitive methods, but our superiors insisted on your presence. Follow me." Jiwon grabbed his toolkit and followed her through the curved hallways of the station. Other Vril workers stopped and stared as he passed. Humans rarely visited Vril stations, and Jiwon suspected some of these engineers had never seen a human in person before. "Your quarters," Nari said, stopping at a small door. "You will rest for 2 hours, then begin work. The primary systems. Control room is on level 4. My assistant will show you there when it is time." Before Jiwon could ask any questions, she turned and walked away, her long legs carrying her quickly down the hall. Inside his quarters, Jiwon unpacked his scanner and began taking readings immediately. Something was very wrong with this station. The power fluctuations he detected were not consistent with the problems described in his briefing. His scanner beeped softly as it picked up energy signatures that didn't match Vril technology. These readings were older, deeper somehow. Jiwon frowned and adjusted his scanner settings. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. A younger Vril stood at his door, his blue skin a lighter shade than Director Nari's. "Human Li," the Vril said, with less coldness than the director had shown. "I am Assistant Engineer Taeho. I will take you to the control room now." As they walked, Jiwon decided to test his luck. The station seems to have unusual power patterns. Were they always like this? Taeho's middle arms twitched slightly. "The station performs as designed, but the problems started 32 days ago," Taeho finished. "Without warning, systems that have operated perfectly for years now fail randomly. Our engineers find no cause." They entered the main control room, where several Vril worked. At curved consoles, all of them stopped to stare at Jiwon. "This is where you will work," Taeho said. "Director Nari requests results within 3 days, or you will be sent back to Earth as proof that humans have nothing to offer the Vril." Jiwon nodded and approached the main diagnostic terminal. The Vril engineers moved away as if he might contaminate them. Jiwon ignored their behavior and connected his tools to their system. His scanner immediately began picking up those strange energy patterns again, stronger here in the control center. According to his readings, the source was somewhere deep within the asteroid itself, below the Vril construction. "Interesting," he whispered to himself. His scanner showed something else too. Someone had made changes to the station's programming, hiding them under layers of code. These weren't random failures, they were deliberate. As Ji-won began working, he felt eyes on him. Looking up, he saw Director Nari watching from a raised platform, her expression unreadable. But Ji-won didn't need to read her face to know one thing. She was hiding something, and somehow he had been brought here to be part of whatever secret the Vril were keeping inside this asteroid. Remember that. Claude can only use tags when citing content from search results. Otherwise, Claude should not use these tags. Claude should only respond in a way consistent with the preceding conversation. Ji-won's fingers moved quickly across the control panel as he traced another power surge through the station's systems. The blue lights of the Vril technology cast shadows across his tired face. He had barely slept in the 3 days since his arrival, spending every waking moment studying the station's malfunctions. "This makes no sense," he muttered, tapping commands into his diagnostic tool. The patterns were too perfect, too precisely timed to be accidents. Someone or something was causing these failures on purpose. Engineer Do-yun stood nearby, all 6 of his limbs perfectly still, as he observed Ji-won's work. The young Vril had been assigned to assist Ji-won, but they both knew he was really there, to watch the human. "You have checked the same subsystem 4 times, Do-yun noted. Our engineers examined it thoroughly before your arrival." Ji-won didn't look up. "I'm not checking it the same way they did." He unplugged one cable and connected another, bypassing the main circuit. "See this fluctuation? It happens exactly every 14 minutes. Nature doesn't work that way. Neither does random equipment failure." Do-hyun moved closer, his large eyes blinking with interest. "You believe these malfunctions are intentional?" "I know they are." Ji-won pointed to his screen. "Look, the power surges come in a pattern that's hard to spot if you're looking at the system as a whole. But if you separate it into sections, the pattern becomes clear. Someone designed these failures to avoid detection by standard Vril analysis protocols." "Impossible," Do-hyun said, but Ji-won noticed his middle arms twitching slightly, a sign of uncertainty among the Vril. "Not impossible, just different." Ji-won connected a bypass to another circuit. "Your people are brilliant engineers, but you think in straight lines, input, process, output. Humans tend to think in circles. We look for the things that don't fit." Do-hyun watched as Ji-won rerouted another circuit. "Your approach is unusual. Sometimes you need to think sideways," Ji-won explained while carefully reconnecting the wires. "Your people look for patterns. Humans look for exceptions." For the first time since Ji-won's arrival, Do-hyun's face showed something other than professional detachment. His head tilted slightly and his secondary arms relaxed. "This is why the Alliance insisted on a human technician." Ji-won nodded, not wanting to say more. He had his suspicions about why he was really here, but he kept them to himself. Later that night, after the day shift engineers had retired, Ji-won slipped out of his quarters with his handheld scanner. The strange energy readings he had detected were stronger during the station's night cycle, and he was determined to find their source. The corridors were dimly lit with the soft blue emergency lighting that the Vril used during rest periods. Ji-won moved quietly, following the increasing energy readings on his scanner. They led him to a maintenance section on the lowest level of the station, the point where the Vril construction met the asteroid itself. The scanner led him to a blank wall at the end of a rarely used maintenance corridor. According to the station schematics, nothing was supposed to be beyond this point, but his scanner showed powerful energy signatures coming from the other side. Ji-won ran his hands along the wall, feeling for any irregularities. His fingers found a slight indentation that didn't match the typical Vril design. When he pressed it, a small panel slid open, revealing an unusual control pad. The symbols on it weren't Vril script. "What are you hiding?" he whispered. Ji-won connected his scanner to the control pad, running a bypass sequence. After a moment, there was a soft click, and a section of the wall slid back, revealing a dark corridor that shouldn't exist. The air that rushed out was stale but breathable. Ji-won shined his light down the passage, revealing walls that were definitely not of Vril design. The architecture was angular and geometric, unlike the fluid curves the Vril preferred. And the material, it looked like stone, but gave off faint energy readings. Ji-won stepped inside, his heart pounding. The corridor sloped downward, heading deeper into the asteroid. His scanner showed the energy source was stronger now, pulling him forward. After walking for several minutes, the corridor opened into a larger chamber. Ji-won's light couldn't reach the ceiling, but it revealed strange markings carved into the walls. They resembled no language he had ever seen before. In the center of the room stood a pedestal with what looked like a control console. It was covered in the same strange symbols as the walls. As Ji-won approached it, lights began to glow softly along the floor, responding to his presence. "They react to you, but not to us," a voice said from behind him. Ji-won spun around to find Do-hyun standing in the corridor entrance. "I didn't," Ji-won began, but was cut off by a loud alarm blaring throughout the station. Do-hyun's communication device buzzed. "Engineer Do-hyun, report to the primary reactor immediately. We have another malfunction," came Director Nari's voice. Do-hyun looked at Ji-won, his eyes unreadable. "This is not about the reactor. They know you're here." He gestured to the hidden chamber. "We must go now. I will explain what I can, but not here." Before Ji-won could respond, the lights in the chamber flashed brightly, and the console on the pedestal began to glow. The symbols started to shift and change as if reacting to their presence. "Too late," Do-hyun said, his voice barely audible over the alarms. "It has begun." Do-hyun pulled Ji-won through the twisting corridors of the station, his 6 limbs moving with urgency. The alarms continued to blare overhead, but the Vril engineer led them away from the reactor section, not toward it. "Where are we going?" Ji-won asked, struggling to keep pace with the taller alien. "Somewhere we can talk safely," Do-hyun replied. His voice sounded different now, less formal, more worried. They reached a small maintenance room filled with spare parts and tools. Do-hyun locked the door behind them and activated a small device that emitted a low hum. "Signal blocker," he explained. "We have 5 minutes before someone notices it's active." Ji-won crossed his arms. "Then start talking. What was that place? What's really happening on this station?" Do-hyun's middle arms twitched nervously. "The outpost has a purpose beyond what you were told. The asteroid was not random. We chose it specifically because of what was inside." "The ruins," Ji-won said. "Yes. The Vril found them 20 years ago. A structure deep within the asteroid, perfectly preserved and unlike anything we had seen before." Do-hyun moved to a small computer terminal and inserted a data chip. "These files are restricted to the highest levels of Vril command. I am breaking many laws by showing you this." The screen flickered to life, showing images of the initial excavation. Vril workers carefully uncovering walls made of a strange, dark material that seemed to absorb light. More images followed, rooms filled with unknown technology, corridors, etched with the same symbols Ji-won had seen, and massive chambers whose purpose was unclear. "The outpost wasn't built from scratch," Do-hyun said quietly. "We built around the ruins, incorporating them into our structure while studying what we found." Ji-won stared at the images, recognition dawning on his face. "These architectural elements, they match descriptions of artifacts found on other worlds. The geometric patterns, the material properties, these are founder ruins." "The founders?" Do-hyun repeated. "That's what humans call them. The legendary race that supposedly seeded the galaxy with life forms before vanishing. Most species have myths about them." Do-hyun's eyes widened. "We call them the Ancients. Director Nari believes their technology could elevate the Vril above all other Alliance species. That is why this station exists, to study and reverse engineer their technology." The images on screen changed to show a timeline of events. Ji-won noticed that the first system malfunction occurred exactly 32 days ago, matching what he had been told. "What happened here?" he asked, pointing to the date. Do-hyun looked uncomfortable. "We activated a power source we found deep within the ruins. It worked briefly, then shut down. That's when the malfunctions began." "Not malfunctions," Ji-won corrected. "Reactions. The ruins are responding to being activated." A new alarm sounded, different from the first. Do-hyun quickly checked his communicator. "Director Nari is ordering a full station lockdown." She knows you've discovered the truth. He turned off the terminal and removed the data chip. We need to go back to the chamber you found. It's our only chance to understand what's happening. They made their way carefully through the station, avoiding the security teams that now patrolled the corridors. The journey took nearly an hour, but they eventually reached the hidden door that led to the ruins. The chamber looked different now. The soft glow G1 had seen earlier had spread, illuminating ancient patterns on the walls. The central console pulsed with light. The energy readings have doubled since I was here, G1 said, checking his scanner. The ruins have been growing more active each day, Do-hyun admitted. But nothing like this. Your presence has accelerated the process somehow. G1 approached the central console cautiously. The malfunctions in your systems, they're not random. They're attempts at communication. Communication with whom? With whoever can understand, G1 said. He studied the console more closely. In the center was a crystalline panel, similar to a display screen but made of a material he had never seen before. Your reports say the Vril tried to activate this, Do-hyun nodded. Many times. Our best scientists tried every approach. Nothing worked. Ji-won took a deep breath. Something was pulling him toward the panel, an instinct he couldn't explain. Sometimes the simplest approach is best. He placed his palm flat against the crystal surface. The effect was immediate. The panel illuminated with brilliant blue light that spread outward through channels in the floor and walls. The entire chamber came alive with energy. The crystal beneath Ji-won's hand warmed, and then images crashed into his mind like waves. Star maps showing worlds he recognized and many he didn't. DNA sequences spiraling and reforming. Faces of species both familiar and alien. Vast ships traveling between the stars. And finally humans, primitive at first, then evolving, reaching for the stars. Through it all a message repeated, not in words, but in pure understanding. The children return. Ji-won gasped and pulled his hand away, falling to his knees. Do-hyun rushed to his side, all 6 limbs moving to support him. What happened? What did you see? Ji-won looked up, his eyes wide. I think I know why your people couldn't activate it. Why the station started malfunctioning when you tried to power up the ruins. He took a shaky breath. The ruins weren't meant for the Vril. They were waiting for humans. Impossible, Do-hyun said. Humans are newcomers to the galactic community. The Vril have explored the stars for thousands of years before humans left their planet. And yet, Ji-won said, standing up slowly, it responded to my touch, not yours. He looked around at the now fully activated chamber. The founders didn't vanish. They became us, or at least part of them did. A loud bang echoed from the corridor, leading to the chamber. Director Nari's voice called out, "Secure the human, do not let him touch anything else." Do-hyun looked between Ji-won and the corridor, clearly torn. You have to decide, Ji-won said quietly. Help them hide the truth or help me discover it. The door to the chamber burst open. Director Nari marched in with 4 security officers, their shock batons raised and ready. She stopped short when she saw the fully activated room, her large eyes widening at the sight of the glowing walls and pulsing floor. Step away from the console, she ordered Ji-won, her voice cold with fury. Do-hyun moved to stand between them. Director, please, we need to understand what's happening. The human has made a breakthrough. A breach of security is what he's made. Nari snapped. Restrain them both. Before the security officers could move, the entire station shuddered violently. The lights flickered, and a deep rumbling sound came from beneath their feet. What's happening? One of the officers asked, looking nervously at the floor. Ji-won's scanner beeped urgently. Energy levels are spiking throughout the ruins. The activation sequence is spreading. Another tremor, stronger than the first, shook the chamber. The security officers struggled to keep their balance. Station report, Nari barked into her communicator. A panicked voice responded, Director, all systems are failing. Primary power is offline. Backup generators are not responding. Environmental controls are shutting down sector by sector. Evacuate all non-essential personnel to the transport ships, Nari ordered. Initiate containment protocols for Sector 7. Ji-won looked at Do-hyun. Sector 7? What's in Sector 7? The heart of the ruins, Do-hyun whispered, where we found the power source. The station rocked again, and this time the lights went out completely. For a moment, they stood in total darkness. Then, one by one, ancient lights embedded in the walls of the chamber came to life, bathing everything in a soft golden glow. A low hum filled the air, growing louder by the second. Ji-won felt it in his bones, not unpleasant but powerful, like standing next to a massive engine as it started up. "What have you done?" Director Nari demanded, her voice modulator barely containing her fury as she turned to face Ji-won. "Nothing. You haven't been attempting for years," Ji-won replied calmly. "The difference is it responded to me." The console in the center of the room pulsed with light, drawing everyone's attention. Symbols flowed across its surface, changing and rearranging themselves. "It's communicating," Ji-won said, stepping closer. "Stop him," Nari ordered. But another violent shake of the station sent everyone stumbling. Ji-won reached the console and placed his hand on it again. Immediately the symbols stopped moving and arranged themselves in a pattern. The floor beneath them became transparent, revealing more chambers below, long dormant machinery now humming with life. "Look," Ji-won said, pointing downward. "The asteroid isn't just housing ruins. It's one massive ship or station built by the founders." Director Nari pushed her way forward to see. Her anger seemed momentarily forgotten as she stared at the ancient technology coming to life beneath their feet. "Our scans never penetrated this deep," she murmured. "How is this possible?" "Because it didn't want to be found," Ji-won said. "Not until the right time, not until the right people came." As if responding to his words, the console projected a series of images into the air above it, DNA strands that spun and changed. One strand highlighted in blue matched the Vril genome. Another, highlighted in red, clearly showed human DNA, but the human DNA had sections marked in gold, sections that matched patterns in what appeared to be a third strand of DNA, ancient and complex. "It can't be," Nari whispered, her scientific mind grasping the implications instantly. More systems throughout the chamber activated, responding to Ji-won's proximity. Control panels that had remained dark despite years of Vril research now glowed with light. Doors that had never opened slid aside, and all of it happened when Ji-won moved near them, not when the Vril approached. The founders had left their legacy not to the Vril but encoded it in human DNA, Do-hyun said, watching in wonder as another panel lit up when Ji-won passed it. "That's impossible," Nari hissed, her professional detachment crumbling. "Humans are primitive newcomers. Your species barely left your planet a century ago. The Vril have explored the stars for thousands of years." "And yet," Ji-won said, gesturing, to the technology responding to his presence, "all of this was waiting for us, not you." He returned to the central console and placed his palm on it once more. This time, the entire chamber transformed. The walls seemed to disappear, replaced by a view of stars and galaxies. In the center of the room, a holographic figure appeared, humanoid in basic shape with 2 arms and 2 legs, but taller than a human, with elongated fingers and a larger cranium. Its skin had a faint golden sheen. "Not newcomers," Ji-won said, looking at Nari. "Descendants." The holographic figure raised its hand in greeting. When it spoke, its voice was deep and melodious, speaking in a language no one understood. Yet somehow everyone in the room felt the meaning of its words. "Children of our children," the translation came to Ji-won's mind. "Long have we waited for your return." Nari stepped back, her limbs trembling. "What is it saying?" "It's welcoming us home," Ji-won said. "The founders, they seeded life throughout the galaxy, but humans were special. We weren't just another experiment. We were their direct descendants, placed far from the galactic center, allowed to develop in isolation." The hologram continued, showing images of ancient ships traveling to a small blue planet, of early humans being guided and then left to develop on their own. "They wanted us to evolve naturally," Ji-won explained, the understanding coming to him. As the hologram shared its knowledge, to find our own path to the stars, and when we did, the hologram spread its arms wide, and the view changed to show hundreds of installations like this one, scattered throughout the galaxy, all waiting to be awakened. "When we did," Ji-won finished, We would inherit what they left behind. The massive Alliance peacekeeping vessel Harmony docked with the Vril outpost 3 days after the activation event. By then the station had stabilized, though many systems remained offline. The ancient technology had integrated with some parts of the Vril construction while rejecting others. Commander Sung-ho stood tall and straight in his crisp Alliance uniform. As he led a team of diplomats and scientists onto the station, his dark eyes missed nothing as Director Nari greeted them in the main docking bay. "The situation is under control," Nari said stiffly. Her usual pride was muted, replaced by something close to humility. "We welcome Alliance assistance in understanding these developments." "We received reports of a total systems failure, Commander," Sung-ho replied, "and something about an ancient activation sequence. The Alliance Council is very interested in what's happening here, Director." Nari's secondary arms twitched slightly. Perhaps the human technician should explain. He has unique insights into the matter. Ji-won stepped forward from where he had been standing with Do-hyun. The past 3 days had been a blur of discovery and wonder as he worked with the ancient systems, each new revelation more astonishing than the last. "Commander," Ji-won said with a respectful nod, "thank you for coming so quickly. What we've discovered here changes everything we thought we knew about humanity's place in the galaxy." Commander Sung-ho raised an eyebrow. "Those are bold words, Technician Lee." "I can show you," Ji-won said simply. He led the Alliance team through the station, to the chamber deep within the asteroid. As they walked, Ji-won explained what had happened. How the Vril had built their outpost around ruins they discovered. How the systems had begun malfunctioning when they tried to activate the ancient technology. And how everything had responded. To Ji-won's human DNA, the chamber looked different now. What had once been a single room had expanded as walls shifted and new passages opened. The central console glowed with steady light, and holographic displays showed star maps and data streams. "Incredible," breathed one of the Alliance scientists, a Tellarite with thick glasses perched on her snout. "These are definitely founder technologies. The patterns match artifacts found on 17 different worlds." "The Vril found ruins throughout the galaxy," said Commander Sung-ho, walking slowly around the chamber. "They've been searching for founder technology for centuries, but they couldn't activate it," Ji-won added. "It was waiting for the right genetic key." He placed his palm on the console, and the holographic founder appeared again. The alien figure greeted them with the same deep, melodious voice that somehow conveyed meaning directly to their minds. "We are the ones who came before," the figure said. "We seeded the stars with life, guiding evolution along many paths. Each species was given gifts suited to their world and purpose." The hologram changed to show various alien species, including the Vril, each with highlighted genetic sequences. "The Vril were given analytical minds and methodical thinking," Ji-won explained. "Other species received different gifts, enhanced strength, or special senses, or unique abilities. And humans?" Commander Sung-ho asked. The hologram shifted again, showing early humans on Earth, then their development through the ages, finally depicting their first steps into space. "Humans weren't just another experiment," Ji-won said. "We're their direct descendants, modified to survive on Earth but carrying their core genetic structure. They placed us far from the galactic center and let us develop in isolation." "Why?" asked one of the diplomats. "Because they wanted us to develop without influence," Ji-won replied. "To find our own path to the stars." Director Nari stepped forward. "The Outpost? This entire asteroid is actually an ancient seed ship, one of many left throughout the galaxy. It contains knowledge that will transform humanity's place in the galactic order." "You're being surprisingly helpful, Director," Commander Sung-ho noted with suspicion. Nari's primary arms made a gesture of acceptance. "I have had 3 days to consider the implications. The evidence is undeniable. Unlike other species designed for specific evolutionary paths, humans were created with unlimited potential. Fighting this truth would be illogical and dangerous," Do-hyun added quietly. "The technology responds only to human DNA. It can't be forced or hacked." Commander Sung-ho turned to Ji-won. "The Alliance Council will need to be fully briefed. This discovery has enormous implications for interspecies relations. I know, G1 said. I've already started preparing a report for Earth. Our governments will need to work together on this. Later, as Alliance scientists examined the chamber and diplomats discussed next steps, G1 stood alone by a window that had appeared in one wall of the chamber. It showed not the blackness of space, but a view of Earth as it had looked millions of years ago, pristine and blue. He felt rather than heard Director Nari approach. She stood beside him, also looking at the ancient view of Earth. In Vril culture, she said after a long silence, to admit error is considered a sign of weakness, but in this case, I must acknowledge that we were wrong. Her voice was softer than G1 had ever heard it. We misunderstood humanity's purpose. We saw your species as primitive and unimportant. Perhaps that was intentional on the founders' part, G1 replied. They hid their greatest treasures where no one would think to look. Your people will face challenges, Nari said. Many species will fear what this means. Some may resist. We're used to challenges, G1 said. Humans have always had to fight, to prove ourselves. Nari's primary arms made a gesture of respect, the first time she had shown such courtesy to G1. The founders chose well, she said simply, before walking away. G1 turned back to the window, watching as the view shifted to show Earth as it was now, a planet of blue oceans, green lands, and the lights of human civilization twinkling across its night side. Perhaps they wanted us to earn our inheritance, he whispered to himself, smiling as he placed his hand against the cool surface of the window. Beneath his palm, the window glowed with gentle light, acknowledging his touch, a human touch, and the connection to those who had come before.